Today, border czar Tom Homan will be in Minneapolis. His first order of business, he's going to meet with Mayor Jacob Frey as President Trump looks to ease tensions between the state and the White House. The president spoke with both Frey and Governor Walz yesterday and posted about it. Fox News contributor Guy Benson joins us now. Guy, so much has changed in 24 hours. Tom Homan in, BOVINO out to his original post, but they say not fired. What do you think?
Well, it seems like a demotion at the very least, and my guess is President Trump, and there were some sources whispering about this over the weekend, he was watching how everything went down in this terrible, deadly incident, the response, the statements that were made by high-ranking officials, and the backlash against the untruthfulness of some of those statements, or at least the debatable nature of what they were saying. And he said, you know, enough of this. This is, among other things, a political and PR battle, and a way to lose it is to not have credibility with the public. And so he decided to send in Tom Homan, who's a very experienced guy. He understands the job through and through. He wants to take it very seriously and do it the right way. And I think that Trump going out of his way to note that Homan hadn't been involved in Minneapolis or Minnesota was sort of a blank slate moment to say, hey, this needs fresh eyes, fresh leadership. And by the way, he's reporting directly to me. That was a shakeup, and I think a needed one.
Right, and I think it's leadership, too. I'm going to take action. Kristi Noem, focus on FEMA and other things. With Minneapolis, we're going to put some fresh eyes in there that have credibility on both sides. The other thing I think to point out, too, Tom Homan's kind of iced out. You notice he wasn't on television for the last 2 or 3 weeks. His focus is going to be on the worst of the worst, and I sense that BOVINO and company were just scooping up some people that I don't think the president was for. I mean, it was about 6 weeks ago when the president was talking about finding a way for people that have been here 20, 30 years or 15, 20 years and finding them a way of have maybe a long-term work visa with a sponsorship and that type of program. That didn't coalesce with what we were seeing.
Well, the promise was mass deportations. That applied to anyone in the country illegally, but the focus that they really targeted in terms of their rhetoric and certainly many of their actions was the worst of the worst, people with criminal records. And by the way, in the first roughly year of this Trump administration, according to ICE data, about 70% of ICE arrests were of people with criminal histories in the U.S. So that's a very good batting average. I think the thing spun out of control in Minneapolis, largely due to the left, by the way, and these roving, rogue bands of agitators that are almost like these militias running around, stalking these officers, deliberately interfering in operations, which is a crime. I think these are criminal enterprises in many cases, not just so-called peaceful protests, of course, stoked and egged on the whole way by a lot of these politicians. And I think Trump was right to finally get on the phone with the mayor and the governor. If they want things to change on the ground, they also have to give something, and hopefully Homan can broker that.
Hey, Guy, I never heard the governor or the mayor say, hey, I want peaceful protests. What I saw outside that hotel is not peaceful. Hey, I want peaceful protests. But I just heard you bit off the finger of one of the agents. That's not what I'm talking about. They have not called out anything. They've made ridiculous statements like this is about love and sticking up for your neighbor. I looked at Mike Schellenberger last night and says, I would say that almost nobody on the street knows any illegal immigrant. They're out there organized, some of which getting paid. And we see some of the transmissions, taking down license plate, moving like not like a militia, as a militia. Meanwhile, it leads us all towards a government shutdown. So they're talking about to deprive ICE of money. They're not going to fund the DHS, which means no FEMA, which means a government shutdown, means no one gets paid, including the military. Do you think Democrats are going to follow through on their threat?
Well, I think it's important to see what actually plays out in Minneapolis. I hope that finally the governor and the mayor are going to say, fine, you can have access to our jails. We'll do these transfers in an orderly fashion, and then you can pull back from the street operations. Homan has offered that. I hope they take the offer. That might impact what happens in Washington, D.C. Look, my understanding, Brian, is that ICE itself is funded for like 3 more years. So if they were to shut things down over DHS, it would be purely performative to signal, especially to their base, we're mad about ICE. It would be their 2026 version of 2020's defund the police. And in the process, they would be impacting, yes, FEMA and airport security and members of the traveling public. Do they want to shut down the Democrats, our government, again for the second time in 2 years, this time over ICE funding that they can't even stop? Maybe they've decided that resistance is good politics for them no matter what. They're going to do it. I think it would be harmful and dumb.
I agree with you, Guy, but I also think they gain from hurting the Trump economy. And almost nothing is stopping this thing from taking off except the government shutdown. By the way, a snowstorm. Not a good time to stop emergency funding for DHS. Guy Benson, thanks so much. We look forward to listening to your radio show today. Appreciate it.